The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome everyone. This is Drayton Boylston with the Coaching Crucible, and I'm here with the dynamic and mischievous Gary Henson. Gary, you want to say hi?
Hi everybody. Mischievous Coach Gary on the line.
And folks, if you could just give me, throw your hands up on the console and let me know that we're coming across loud and clear, I would greatly appreciate that. There we go. Got some hands up. So Gary, it looks like we are fully engaged and ready to go. So we've got a lot of people clicking in now. And, you know, one of the things that's been happening just in terms of trends, and we're very, very grateful for, is that we've gotten a lot more questions. And we want to continue that, and we want to address things that are important to all of you. That's why we're here. That's why we did this. You know, this is a public service endeavor that Gary and I have built, and we want to continue down that path of addressing anything and everything that you guys want to. So fire away with the questions. We've got them in the console here. Just, you know, what's popping up for you guys, and what, you know, can we do to help you? So we're happy to do just that. And, you know, it's very interesting as we start these segments. Gary and I always get together and we chat a little bit about what's going on, and, you know, we've become very good friends. And we were talking about, you know, today, candor. And one of the things that pops up is, you know, we're, as coaches, I think there's this maybe self-imposed expectation to be 10 feet tall and bulletproof. And always everything's going great, and how are you? It couldn't be better if I were twins, that type of thing.
One of my lines.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So we want to talk about that because I think there's this expectation which can lead to a lot of stress for us as coaches in terms of feeling that way and feeling like we always have to be on and feeling like we have to be perfect and lead this perfect life and do everything just right. And perfection is such a insidious thing that we have to deal with. I know I've been a perfectionist for years. It's something I've had to deal with. And one of the things around all of this is that we need to be very, very transparent. And I know this has been an issue, Gary, that I've worked on for a long time, because I always thought I had to, you know, when I was CEO, I thought I had to be 10 feet tall and bulletproof. I had to be perfect. I had to have all the answers. You know, I don't know were the worst words ever uttered. And it's true. I mean, if you said, I don't know, I mean, that was the kiss of death in the corporate world where I came from. And you always had to come up with the answers and feel like you had to be perfect and indeed have all the wisdom in the room. And as I've gotten older and a little more snow on the roof, I realized that is not the way to go. And I've done a lot of work personally just in terms of my transparency and being more candid with people and having the courage, and it does take courage, to tell people how you really feel. So Gary, when I asked you today, when we just clicked on before the class started, and I said, Gary, how are you doing? Why don't you tell everybody what your response was?
Life sucks right now. How's that for candor?
And we laugh about it, but I was so taken aback, and my first words to Gary were thank you.
Yeah, it's great.
Thank you for being that way, and thank you for trusting our friendship enough to tell me how you really feel. And I think when we set that example, go ahead, Gary, please.
Yeah, and I think you've made three really important distinctions, and I want to help everyone listening today to see and hear what it is that we want to work with you on and what Drayton's saying. Number one, there's transparency, and that's being transparent, and in addition to being authentic, which is what I'm going to say next, talk about next. You want to be transparent. You don't want to be necessarily bringing your stuff or your problems into the relationship, and you want to be there for your client listening. Being authentic means just what Drayton's talking about. How you feeling today? Well, really, I don't feel that great today. Instead of, oh, great, if I were any better, I'd be twins. And then the third thing, that where you're going with this is just brilliant, Drayton, and that is the trust. having the confidence, the trust, the faith that you can be real with people. And in a few moments, we're going to talk a little bit about what kind of real and how real we want you to be with your clients, and really share with them what's going on, what you're observing. Because remember, you're not the person being coached, and you're not the business, and they're not your emotions. So you're standing and outside of the organization, outside of the person, and you're observing them. And most people really can't hide what's really going on with them. They're really going to start talking, and the more they talk, the more you're going to see some things that are going on with them, and that if they're masquerading them or hiding them or avoiding them, there's some great opportunities for you to coach them. Back to you, Mr. Boylston.
Oh my goodness, Gary! I've got to show you something, and folks, I want to make sure that everybody can see this. My blog post today was about this very subject. It just dawned on me, so I want to pull this up. It's going to go slowly, folks, because we've got the webinar going, of course, and it's going to drag on the speed. But it was about this trust issue, and one of the things that I've gained a lot of trust in, well, just in trusting in the work that we do, in every aspect of life, just trusting that things will be okay, trusting that you don't have to have all the answers. That was a big one for me, Gary, just in terms of the way I was built, the way I was schooled, the way I was, raised in the corporate world. Now look at this, Gary. This was today.
Trusting is the greatest act of courage. Beautiful, beautiful.
Now,
see, and you trusted the conversation that
yes.
we were bringing up just before we got on the call here, and look what's happening. We got a whole other opportunity that we can generate here, live, impromptu.
Yeah, and this is that synchronicity that goes with what we do, folks. And I know all of you have experienced this, and you get what it's about, but just letting things go where they need to go. So, this popped up for me this morning. Gary uttered the word trust, and here we are. So trusting is the greatest act of courage. So I'll just leave this up here for a moment if you guys want to read it. But the things that popped out for me around trust, and and this really is hand in glove with transparency and candor and those things, is gaining a sense of peace. That's really the number one thing for me in life right now. And when I work with clients, it's about gaining that peace. And when we're working with our clients, one of the most important and powerful tools that I've found with people, and I never would have done this even probably 5 or 6 years ago, is to give them a little window into my soul. Ask them permission. May I share with you something that happened with me in the corporate world back in 1995, let's say, and then letting them know what happened, and using it as a coaching opportunity to have them see how I handled it and maybe could have handled it in a better fashion, what I learned from that, and then how it applies to them. So there's so much power with all of this. And the one thing here, Gary, I look at is this right here.
Beautiful, beautiful.
It was the biggest thing for me is not to try to control everything. And being a recovering control freak, that still is really, really hard. And it's the antithesis of trust, though, isn't it?
It is, and I think we're really opening up a beautifully gift-wrapped Pandora's box here. I think there's so much meat. I'm looking at the clock, watching it race by here. There's so much to talk about. You brought up another thing that I really want to highlight, and could be easily misunderstood. So I want the listeners to get the value of what you just said. You can be transparent, and you can tell a story. You can go back in history and say, well, when I did this, or when I used to do that, here's a story about the topic that we're on, or about what you want to share with them, where you're coaching them in the moment. just be really clear that you bring it around like Drayton did and say, and here's why I wanted to share this story with you. Again, I can't say this enough. They're not there to listen to you and have you pay them to tell your story. What you want to do is make sure that you use your wisdom. And some of you are very, very young people listening to this call, or very young in the coaching industry. Everybody has something they can bring to the table. I use stories, Drayton, when I was in 6th grade or 12th grade or struggling in college, and I use stories like that that show wisdom and that benefit my clients. But I make sure that when I end the story and say, and here's why I wanted to share that with you. It's not I don't want you to listen to my drama. That's not what the relationship is about. But I want you to get this story that even when I was in college, I was struggling in this area of fill in the blanks, and use the story. Try to keep them a little bit brief, but stories can be so beautiful, and it fits with what we're talking about, Drayton, because it brings about that trust that you're talking about, that authenticity, that that transparency that you started off talking about. When we can be real people, not 10 feet tall and bulletproof, when we can be real people and share authentically with people a somewhat brief story that's going to contribute to them getting the point that you're coaching them on, and also at the same time having them see you as a human being. And they, in my opinion, this may sound obvious to many, but our clients must see us as human beings. They must know and understand that we too have struggles and pains. And honestly, for some of you, the best thing you can do is go out and hire a coach or have somebody coach you so that you can see some of these characteristics. And what you'll do is you'll bring the stories, if you have a good coach, the stories from your coaching with your coach, you'll bring those to the relationships, and it'll make you much more powerful and a much higher quality coach.
It will, and I think that's, so much of this is tied to the whole confidence issue. So I want to go back to what you said. One of the important points that popped out for me, Gary, is that no matter how old you are and what your experience level is, you bring wisdom to the relationship. And trusting with, and we've touched on this before, I spoke to this, gave a talk this weekend to a group about this, the purity of intention. So we're here to serve our clients. We're here to do whatever we can to assist them. And part of that is being so immersed in that endeavor and that desired outcome that we will employ whatever we deem appropriate as we work with them. And part of that is trusting that we get messages, that we have experiences, that we've been given gifts of certain teachers that we are to share with people. And Gary, this brings up a massive point in the coaching world about not giving advice and not, just demonstrating or displaying yourself, and it's all just question, all those things. And that's a piece of it, yes. And there's a whole person approach to coaching that we need to embrace and be very comfortable with. And it comes back to trusting your instincts. And whatever pops up for you. So what popped up for me when Gary made his really courageous statement when we got on the phone today, what popped up for me immediately, Gary, what did I offer to do?
Oh, yeah. So I was saying to Drayton that life sucks and life's not fun for me right now. I've got some circumstances in my personal life that are making it not fun. And he says, well, how can I help? Maybe we should get together and have a phone conversation, and I'll talk or I'll give you some advice, but if you just need somebody to listen to, I'd be willing to listen to you. So he's right there because I'm being authentic and transparent with them. With him, I get an opportunity to have somebody that is a world-class coach listen to me, work with me, talk to me about it, and maybe help me in some way. And he offered to help in any way that he could.
And I see that as a two-way gift. So Gary gave me the gift of candor, gave me the gift of friendship and trust to say something that was just laid himself wide open, and I wanted to give him the gift of reciprocity in helping in any way that I could.
Amen.
And it's that quid pro quo that we demonstrate in coaching and live. You know, Gary, if you run into a guy on the street and all of a sudden you can see he's downtrodden and he's just got some issues, I know that you would make eye contact and talk to that fellow and help in any way that you could. And we don't turn off this thing called coaching.
Yeah, the radar antennas are always up, and that's a really beautiful thing. And the term that comes to mind as I was listening to you describe your feelings and what you said to me, the thing that comes up is that me being transparent and you responding the way you did created a win-win situation. If I say, oh, it's a great day, boy, the weather's here is gorgeous, and I'm just having a beautiful day, which, you know, in my mind I'm thinking, nobody wants to hear my problems. Nobody wants to know that, you know, I have some struggle going on in my personal life right now. People don't need to hear that. I don't want to bother Drayton. He's a busy guy. Then it's a lose-lose situation because you and I lack a little authenticity in our relationship, at least in that moment, if I'm not being authentic, and it's a lose-lose. You don't get the opportunity to create that reciprocity and develop that steeper relationship. And who knows? We get on the phone, we talk. Who knows what can end up happening?
Yeah. And what's so beautiful about this is, and the reason Gary and I do what we're doing, especially with the Crucible, is that we know that if we can, whoever's listening to this live or recorded, or whoever might hear your words after you hear our words, this ripple effect, that if it helps one person in some way, then it's a win. And I think a big part of this, Gary, is that there may be some of you that you know, look at Gary and myself as, okay, you know, we've been doing this a long time. We've got a certain, you know, stature, whatever you want to call it, in the coaching industry, and it's like, you know, maybe you're perceiving that we're 10 feet tall and bulletproof, and the reality is we're not. And we're in that position where we gain comfort in saying that we're not. And
yes,
we're just here to serve others. And I couldn't have made that statement, Gary, probably 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I hope those of you who are maybe even newer to the industry or just, you know, whatever situation you're in, take from this that, you know, have that trust and be transparent and authentic and bring your full self to these relationships, and always with the viewpoint of whatever I bring up, it's not about me trying to get some reverse free coaching with someone that's paying me. It's with the sincere desire, that purity of intention to help that individual that I am with in that moment. It's so interesting, Gary, in this this talk I gave this weekend with some beautiful servant souls that it's their life's work to give back to people in society, and we were talking about giving and receiving. And one of the things that the mindset that is called to coaching, the person, the way they are, the way we are, is, and I'm speaking from personal experience and having talked to, you know, thousands of coaches all over the world, we are really great at serving, and we really suck at receiving. And I know it's one of the mantras I've been working on and continue to work on, because you get out of bed and you want to serve other people, you want to coach other people, you want to help them. Yet when we may need something, like Gary may need something, I may need something, we are very hesitant, if not completely closed off, to asking for help or being open. And it just dawned on me about 3 years ago, Gary, that this is like a full circle. And if I only operate in half of the circle, which is the giving part, that circle never comes around. So if I'm not open to receiving as a coach, then I stem the flow of all of that great energy And somebody made a beautiful statement this weekend when they said, I now get, after I gave this talk, they stood up and they said, I now get the fact that I'm giving someone a present when I ask for their help. And he said, that never would have dawned on me. Hmm. And what just popped up for me in talking this through is that I hope that all of you have a coach and utilize that coach and get the return that you see on the other side, but you need to feel it from the receiving side too. And let's just do a show of hands, Gary. So raise your hand. Look, we've got a great number of people here with us today. Raise your hand if you have a coach. Just use a console and raise your hand if you currently have a coach.
I fear you're going to find a small percentage of people responding favorably to that. And I want to add a little commentary to your commentary, Drayton. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I had been in corporate coaching large, medium, and small businesses for a number of years. And I'm talking north of 10 years before I hired my first coach. Now, I had gotten some coaching and I'd gotten some people mentoring me and whatnot, but to really to have the relationship. And so years ago, I hired my first coach, and I want to tell you that my practice was like a rosebud before I hired the coach, and it was like a full in bloom, full color, beautiful red rose after a couple of months of coaching. And what I realized in the process is when my coach said, okay, I've got a couple of hours worth of assignments for you this week, and I'm going to hold you accountable to doing your assignments. And then a couple of weeks later, I've got a book I want you to read now, and I'll give you a week or 2 weeks to read the book, and I'm going to hold you accountable. And, let's see, next week when we meet, make sure you bring your checkbook because my fee is due. I had never had the feelings of those interactions and many, many other interactions with my coach that my clients had been having for years. And I didn't realize what it was like to be on the other side of that conversation. And again, there are many, many other conversations. Some examples came to mind. And I just absolutely grew as a human being when I had my coach say the same thing to me that I had said hundreds of times to my clients in those first 8 or 10 or 12 years of me coaching large organizations. So the value is not only intrinsically in your practice will grow, you'll become a better person, you'll get increase and return, ROI, return on your investment when you hire a coach, but you're going to significantly grow as a person, and emotionally and internally and spiritually you're going to grow because you're going to experience things that you didn't know that were happening on the other side of that relationship for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm. It gives you perspective, doesn't it?
Sure does. Sure does.
Well, it's interesting. So from the little poll that we did, it appears that less than 20% of the people that are with us today have a coach. Mm-hmm. So here is a thought. We're going to post the recording after the class, and we have a comments section there. If you want to partner up with someone else from this and you're brave enough to put it out there and ask for a buddy-coach relationship, maybe it's just you coach each other and there's no money exchange. It's just, barter to barter. Post it in the comments section and see if you can find somebody that will partner up with you. Our goal would be to have 100% of you have coaches. I have, and I've mentioned this before, I have between 2 and 3 coaches at any given time. I do.
And I'm right there with
things. You. Yeah, for different things. So yeah. I've got a strategy coach. I've got a team building coach. I've got coaches for different things. So, and that certainly is an option. But just keep in mind that we need to walk or talk. and having a coach is part of that. So we want to help facilitate that. So Gary, that might be the best way to do it. Just post it in the comments section and say, hey, I'm looking for a coach. This is how you can connect with me, and let's see if we can make that happen, okay? And we've got some great comments, and certainly keep the comments coming because they're so important. Susan said, vulnerability is huge, make us successful. Yes, that is so true. And she brings up a very good question here. When that occurs in the business environment, she's speaking to vulnerability and accessibility, where people believe they have to maintain a particular image that does not include displaying weakness or negativity. So one of the things that it's a knowing I now have is that we need to bring reality into business. Mm-hmm. And the best way to do that is to bring our full self and to demonstrate what proper behavior is. And sometimes, back to what I said, Gary, it's very interesting how this comes back full circle. In the first couple of minutes today, those 3 really challenging words in the workplace, I don't know. Mm. And as coaches, when somebody asks us a direct question, I say I don't know so many times now because I don't know. That's just reality. Let's find out together. I don't know. And I think that authenticity, Susan, bringing that to the workplace and setting an example that it's okay to say I don't know. When I work with executives and I tell them, they feel like I give them permission, but they're just in essence giving themselves permission to say those words, I don't know, and then see how their staff starts reacting to that, and then it permeates a whole organization. Then all of a sudden he or she is getting the right information versus just what some person thinks they want to hear. It starts bringing true, transparent, authentic conversations into the workplace, which quite frankly rarely exists today. So I think we need to set that example. I think that we need to just live that and demonstrate it and be completely transparent around this. And I guarantee you, your client will love it. They'll be shocked at first because they're not used to hearing things like that are the truth. And then they'll go, oh my gosh, that is a breath of fresh air. So back to the whole trust thing right here. Trust, 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 trust. Trust. Trust that you are doing the right thing. And this, yeah, go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, I warned you that I was loaded up with this conversation because it's not a coincidence today that the conversation went the way that it went, because there's so much that I have been working with some of my students and graduates and people on our Global Partner Program just recently on this topic. It's so fresh for me. I'm so excited. I just want to add a couple of examples that are a little off where we've been here. Trust that you and have the confidence that you are enough as a coach, that you do bring enough to the table. In our world, at businesscoach.com, one of the things that we feel strongest about is that the 2 main assets, the 2 tools that you bring to the table as a business coach are, number 1, that you're not them. You don't have the emotions. You don't have the responsibility, the liability of the company. So you can look from the outside in and bring an objective opinion. And number 2, you're the accountability partner. Now, last time I checked, those 2 classes weren't being offered in college. So you've got a level playing field here that you can beat that without having graduated from the best university in the country, or having a BA or an MBA or a PhD. You don't need those to be an objective outside opinion and an accountability partner. And ways that this can show up is, one of our coaches just was talking about the other day, well, I was embarrassed to bring it up, but I kept asking my client why they were struggling so much with their cash flow, and he kept avoiding talking about their accounts receivable. So I asked him for an accounts receivable report, and they had thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of money owed, and he was too embarrassed to go to his clients that were 30, 60, 90, 120 days past due and paying their bills and ask them to bring their accounts current. And when he did, within 30 days, most of them paid. He had nothing. He had tons of cash, but he was embarrassed. That's what the coach is there to do. Now, you don't need to hit your client over the head to talk about that, but you can certainly poke around a little bit and find out why they're avoiding talking about certain things. And then you can bring it to their attention that, look, this is what coaching is all about. I'm listening to you, and I want to bring, in some cases, uncomfortable conversations out of the dark into the light so we can handle them and they're not in the dark anymore and they go away. Other things are, I didn't do my assignment for the week. You asked me to read a book and I didn't do it. You don't have to beat them up. You can just say simply, look, this is an important part of our relationship. Having you read this particular book and having you understand that this is going to move you forward in our relationship, in your business, in your role in the company. And so you must do the assignments in order for us to move forward. How can I help you, or how can I help hold you accountable to get that done in the next week? And I think you all get the picture. I'm not going to stay on my soapbox forever, but I want you to understand that it's so critical that when you trust your instincts, and gosh, it's just painful for me to say to Drayton because it's the truth. I just got to say it. Particularly you females, you've got God-given female instincts, women's intuition right there inside of you. If you suspect that there's something that is not being talked about in a gentle and but yet firm way, bring up the fact, why aren't we talking about this? Why aren't we talking about that? And one more thing, Drayton, then I'm going to turn it back over to you. But I remember years ago somebody said to me, they were giving me this great compliment, Coach Gary, you're such a great coach. You know, you work with all these businesses. You're 10 feet tall and bulletproof. And I was, you know, my ego was well served in receiving the compliments, but I wasn't really looking for that. And I was trying to get this person to calm down. And thank you. I appreciate the pat on the back, but it's not about me. It's about us together moving forward in this relationship. And one thing that I remember this person saying about all the great things that I was doing in their business in this one-year relationship as their coach, and I without even thinking about it, I responded and said, you know what, I think I do have some great skills, and I've developed some great skills over time. But you know, the thing that you haven't mentioned that I'm the most proud of as a skill as a business coach is my listening. I believe I've become a good listener, and the skill that I think that God really has developed inside of me over the years that I really use well is listening for what people don't talk about. The thing that you ask, well, so where can I coach you? Where do you need help? Well, I need help over here, over there, over here, over there. I could use some real good coaching over here. Well, I write that down and I make notes about that, and I work with people in those areas. But I always ask them, well, why are we not talking about this? You haven't talked about your relationship with your employees at all. I'm curious about that. Why didn't you bring that up? And how come we're not talking about your accounts payable? You haven't mentioned much about the process of paying your bills. And we talked about your finances, but we didn't talk about that. And if you use your instincts, if you trust that you don't have to be a brilliant Donald Trump graduate style business person, but just use your skills, you can really go a long way, and you can really authentically coach somebody, and not having all those business skills can be a huge contribution to another person.
Mm-hmm. Really well said. Really well said.
Yeah, thank you. Fun conversation. I love this conversation.
Yeah, it's a great conversation, and here's one that hit me right in the chest. This from Ryan. I wish I could afford to have a great coach.
Mm.
And Ryan, I'm here to tell you, you can't afford not to. And you can work out, there's a million different ways to work out a coaching relationship right now if you're not in a financial place to hire someone for $3,000 a month. Then find someone that will buddy coach with you. And Gary, this is where one of those incongruencies that exist in our industry that is far-reaching. This happens all over the world. You know, we did the poll earlier, and only 20% have coaches. How does that work in the eyes of the greater community when they see those things? Because it's been publicized that, okay, if you're a great coach and you believe in coaching so much, why don't you have a coach? And it so many times comes back to this money conversation. And Gary, what we do, in the first 2 sessions in our certification program, we get people to buddy up and have a buddy coach, and those continue and have continued with some of our students for years with their buddy coach they met in class. And you can do a similar thing. And I love, Ryan, the courage that it took to say that. And he goes on to say, you have to have a coach to help make money, but you have to have money to get a coach. Well, I hope we're diffusing that, Ryan. So, and again, we're going to post it and ask for a coaching relationship in the comments section on the Crucible page when you get that link with the recording. And you can find a coach. You absolutely can find a coach. And you can there's all kind of bartering arrangements. You may bring special skills or have special tools that you can give to a person that's a good coach that you can barter with. So if there's a will, there's a way. And you have to find a way to get coached. You have to. Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, and Drayton, we for those also, if you want to look at, for those that get regular emails from businesscoach.com, just read the one tomorrow. That'll help you out. That's coincidentally that's the topic. And,
yeah,
and I'm going to have John post something on our blog tomorrow as well. So I'll write a blog and we'll get that posted up tomorrow about buddy coaching. Couple comments, Drayton. One quick comment. I want to give people a gift today. For the people that are listening and that want a picture of what we're talking about. So I'm not a big fan of being addicted to buddy coaching. You know, it gets convenient even when you get stronger and you have clients to use a buddy coach. A buddy coach is better than no coach, but let me give a couple of tips for people about buddy coaching. Number one way to make buddy coaching have a little stronger impact if Drayton and I, for example, decide that we're going to buddy coach with each other and we start at the beginning of the month, one of the things I could say to Drayton is, well, why don't you send me a check for $3,000 and I'll send you a check for $3,000 and we'll both cash them on the same day, which kind of solidifies the relationships and actually gets you in the habit of what it feels like to write that check out to your coach and to cash the check and so on and so forth, so that you're equally yoked and you're really making the relationship as pure and as real as you can. Now, if you're Ryan and you're just getting started and you do that for a couple months and then you can afford a coach after that, I would say as soon as you can afford hiring a coach, even if it's not a world-class $10,000 a month coach, if you want to start with somebody who you have confidence in that you feel can make a contribution to you, you can start lower and work your way up and get more and more and more coaches. And if you're making, you know, I know somebody who's making between $1 million and $2 million a year, who is a coach, by the way. He has a coach that he pays $150,000 a year to, and has been paying that for years and years and years. And he writes one check out for $150,000 every January. So this is not uncommon. Drayton and I are not telling you to do something that you should do that we're not doing and that we don't see others that are our peers doing. So I just want to put a couple of tips in there for buddy coaching. The other thing that I would also have everybody get as a free gift. I was thinking when you were talking a few minutes ago, Drayton, how I'm loving this topic and loving your comments and the listeners' comments that they're emailing us on the web. But I have a little gift for everybody. If for some of you are visual people and you want to see more about who is a coach being when they're being transparent and vulnerable, and they're not looking at look, and they're not concerned about the number one commitment that I think human beings have, which is the commitment to looking good and being right. I think we all get caught up in the trap that if we don't look good, it's going to be a bad thing, and people won't like us, and we won't look like we're doing things the right way. And Drayton and I have alluded to the fact that we work on that and still are working on that because it's part of our DNA, it's part of our humanity. But if you want to see a visual, about a 20-minute film clip that you can get on YouTube of a coach coaching his player and getting maximum impact, but notice how clever this coach is and notice how powerful this coach is. Just go on YouTube and look for the movie Facing the Giants. Facing the Giants. The movie's been out for years and years and years, and you don't have to watch the whole movie, although the movie is a beautiful, beautiful demonstration of what coaching really looks like, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and how the whole dynamic can really empower people and change the world. Go to the clip, and it's all over the internet, but go to the clip called it's called the movie's Facing the Giants, and the clip is called The Death Crawl. The Death Crawl, 3 words, The Death Crawl. And it is a beautiful full-color analogy of a coach coaching his student. In this case, it's a high school coach and a high school student. But you got to get the part right from the part where the player makes a negative comment, and the coach takes the liberty of saying, let's investigate that. Let's see if you're really sharing your heart or are you just making a smart mouth comment, and how he takes them through a coaching session and really, really makes a difference with his student, the student in this case. Sorry about the ringer. My ringer is broken. I can't turn it off here and making noises. But it's a beautiful clip. It's a beautiful example of how you can coach someone, and you can see how far this coach is willing to go, and how transparent and how absolutely giving this coach can be to get results for his player. Back to you, Mr. Boylston.
I love it. I love it. I have not seen that movie. I just wrote it down. So Facing the Giants, The Death Crawl, which it sounds like I grew up in the South and played football, and we did a lot of things that sounded like the death crawl. So
yeah. I think your imagination went in the right direction.
Yeah,
I wondered if you had seen that movie, and I want to give there's another great example. This was a B movie that I think some little church in the South put up $50,000 to see if they could make a movie and show some things about coaching and some beliefs that they had. And this movie was a B movie, and it got out into the world, and it got on YouTube. And this thing, I'll bet it sold a million copies in the video stores. Just people looking for this movie that never really made it out into the mainstream movie stream. And this group put together 3 or 4 movies before they actually got one in the movie theaters. They had to prove themselves because they weren't backed by all the big movie producers, and it was just a little. The first one was just a little kind of a homemade movie, and then they started getting. Once they sold 1 million copies, I think they started getting the money to produce better and better. And they've now had about 15 or 20 movies that are out there, and they're selling in the theaters now. So it's a great example of all that.
Yeah, I think it's great. We got a great message here from Tim as well. This is a message to Ryan and others. Coach swapping with others can really work. Bartering is another word for it. Recommended. And we have a lot of stories like that. And I love Gary's idea about swapping checks. I think that's tremendous. Or maybe you go first month somebody pays $3K, and the next month somebody pays the other guy $3K. So there's all kinds of ways to do this. But the reality is, and if you don't have a vision board, I'm a big believer in vision boards and visualization. Put it on your vision board. Find a picture, scan the internet and find a picture of a coach, somebody that you would really relate to, and put it on your vision board and make it one of your desires, and make this happen. It could be, and there's probably a high probability that it will be the key to you being successful in coaching. I'm a firm believer in that. Think about this. If we didn't believe in coaching, then why would we be doing it? And we need to demonstrate that to the greater community in the world, that we believe in it and we use it ourselves. And, you know, Gary, this really comes back full circle for this whole conversation, in that if we believe we have work to do, which I've got tons of work to do, I find new things to work on daily. And I do that with my coaches. And in fact, I got busted by my coach this morning on something. He sent me an email, and he goes, "What's the deal with this?" And I went, "Yeah, I get that. Thank you." Just this morning. And so being open to that and demonstrating that to the world, and letting people know that we aren't 10 feet tall and bulletproof. We don't have all the answers. We don't necessarily have these perfect lives. The beauty of it is that we're human, and we're sharing that humanity with others. And that's what's so cool about all of this. Okay, so let's get some more questions.
I love that, Coach. Before we get into other people's comments and questions, I love that quote by Tom Landry. A coach is someone who gets you to do what you don't want to do, so you can be who you want to be.
I love it.
So, and notice that Tom Landry wasn't a mamby-pamby coach. For those of you that know football, he was a pretty tough guy, but he loved his players, and he would do anything to see his players succeed, not so he could win the Super Bowl, although that's the ultimate goal of the team, but to see his players succeed, to see his players grow, to see his players get what they wanted to get. And that's the other thing, Drayton, that we're so good at as coaches when we understand this game and we understand the role of the coach and the role of the client, and that is that we don't have the client go for our goals or what we think they should go for. We have them hit their goals, their vision, and their dreams, and help them to turn that into a reality. So when Tom Landry says a coach is someone who gets you to do what you don't want to do, push-ups, so you can be who you want to be, an all-star football player, then it's common sense what you just said. Our humanity gets in the way of us getting what we want to have for our life.
That's really well said. Yeah, and a lot of this is having that confidence to be transparent and to be open to improvement, and having people, and I used this on Saturday when I gave my talk, it's, you know, the Maslow thing. It's being independent of the good opinion of others. And when we get to that place where it doesn't matter what someone says, we have so much internal knowing and confidence in who we are and how we show up, that it doesn't matter if somebody says, "Oh, you're crazy, you're an idiot, why'd you do that, and why'd you say that?" None of that matters. And the flip side of that is when somebody says, "You're great, and you're the best, and how do you do this, you're so wonderful," that doesn't matter either. Because we're showing up as, this is who we are, this is, you know, we love ourselves, and we're showing up transparently, and we feel so good in our skin that none of that matters. And we feel good enough to know that we can always get better. And that's such a cool thing. When I wake up in the morning, I go, you know, how am I going to get better today? I'm so excited to figure out a way to grow. We have another great comment here from Terrell. Terrell said, the additional benefit of check swapping is that there's proof to ourselves that we get paid for coaching. Wow.
Wow. I love that.
Yeah, I love that too. And Terrell, that's spot on. And folks, one of the things when you get to that place, this dovetails so beautifully with the whole confidence thing, when you get to that place where you can look a client in the eye, or you tell them over the phone, yes, my retainer is $3,000 a month, and there's, Gary, I guarantee you there's dozens of people who just went, well, what, $3,000 a month? And practice saying that into the mirror, practice saying that with your coach, practice, get used to it with a straight face, say it to your significant other, you know, whomever will listen, and get really confident. And when people take our certification class, one of the first things we tell them is, whatever you're charging, double it. Just right out of the gate, just double it. And that's the type of thing that you need to have confidence, because what kind of price tag can you put on the work that we do? When you help someone change their life, there's no price tag you can put on it. So get used to that, and that's something to work on with your coach, is saying, okay, I'm worth this. And your coaching has incredible value, even if you're just starting out. And you've got the purity of intention, you felt the calling, you're in coaching for the right reasons. Know that you should be compensated. And we're big believers in being compensated from the get-go. And the more you give it away, the more you diminish what you're bringing to the table. So we believe in doing, we give a lot to the nonprofit community. We do it at 20% discount, but we still charge, and we give them a 20% discount on our very high rates, quite frankly. But we give a discount. So it's not giving it away. It's pricing it accordingly and discounting where appropriate. But the more, if you get out of bed in the morning and you have confidence that you're worth, let's say $1,000 a month in a coaching relationship, other people will feel that you are too. There is a perception, and the way you carry yourself and the vibes you put out, that dictates how much people will pay you.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, Mr. Boylston, you want a little transparency here?
Mm-hmm.
I have a story about transparency that's also going to segue into confidence and a couple other things you talked about. It just occurred to me that one of the reasons why I got into coaching, I've told you the story maybe in length, but I'll give the very brief story is that I was a bachelor, and my life just seemed empty and meaningless, and I was in the real estate in the commercial real estate business, and I just didn't. I loved the business. I just didn't like the people I was dealing with, and I didn't like the circumstances, and a lot of it I just didn't go for. Playing Monopoly was fun, but some of the other parts of it were not fitting my personality. And I started taking classes on transformation, and I had 25 years ago, I never even heard the word coaching outside of sports. And when I heard the word and I decided to leave my business, I actually owned my own real estate development and brokerage company. I left it because I was so messed up in my life, and I didn't see myself changing, and I couldn't afford to keep taking all these classes and spending thousands of dollars trying to transform myself. I said, you know what? I'm going to jump in the pool called being a coach. And fortunately, I was fortunate enough to meet Jim Selman, and he said, I think I've got something for you here that is going to work in your life. You might make a great business coach. And when I heard those words for the first time 25 years ago, I go, wow, this is cool. I can be in the transformational game. I can be in the game of giving and working with people and helping people, and I can learn as I go. So the thing I want people to get is that Coach Gary wasn't born a 10-pound, 1-ounce baby business coach, and my first occupation wasn't business coach, because that was what I was called to do. I had lots of different experiences, good ones and bad ones in life, and was in my 40s and decided, wow, I love the sound of this, and it's going to work for me. And the confidence that I had was really stupidity. I didn't really think that I needed to know anything about business or anything. I just thought that I just had this notion about other people must be missing something in their life that I can help them with. And some of my experiences, including bad ones and good ones, and having gone through a divorce and lots of life experiences, I could bring something to the table for another human being, and we just figure it out together if they would hire me as my coach. So there's so much that we can bring to the table if you're committed to it, if you're transparent, if you're willing to be a giver and be willing to serve people. You don't necessarily have to have all of this experience and background and understand everything about the coaching field. If you're just willing and committed to get out there and doing it and learn as you go, and your first fees may be closer to $1,000 a month, or not this $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month that Drayton and I talk about and teach our students, but you start somewhere and you get out there and you get going, and if you're committed, if you're authentic, if you really want to be in service to people, you got to get out there. You got to meet people. If you're willing to do those things, you'll be a success, and you'll do really, really well. And there's so many people that need the help, Drayton. The world's filled with people that have blind spots and that are stuck and waiting for you to show up and just say, how can I help?
I love that, Gary, and that's, to me, that is the personification of authenticity and transparency, what you just said. I think that's just so beautiful. And it's, since we're at the group confessional, I'll give mine too.
Oh, we have another brave soul out here today.
Yeah, well, you know, and I hope this really hits home for all of you because, yeah, we didn't, you know, just wake up one day and all of a sudden, oh, we're these brilliant coaches. Mine came from, I was in the corporate world, I was a CEO, and I was miserable. And I finally realized that I had to, and this became our tagline, save myself from the life I'd created. And I did it with coaching. I just immersed myself into coaching. I loved it, got a coach, figured out what it was all about, started, you know, creating courses, training people. That's how it started for me, but it started because I needed to figure my life out. I was burning out. I was traveling 100,000 miles a year, working 12 to 14-hour days, not seeing my family. My health was suffering. I had a catastrophic accident, and all these teachers came to me, and I realized I needed to save myself from the life I'd created. And I now know you can do it, and we can do it with coaching. That's how it works. So you see these people that are in these big positions, you know, people looking at me would say, oh, he's got it all made. Well, I didn't have it made. I was miserable. And I was literally killing myself. And there are tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of people across this planet that are in similar situations. And that's why we do what we do. And that's why Gary and I are so passionate about this, because we know the hurting that's going on. We know the divorce rates. We know the substance abuse issues in the workplace. We know the absenteeism and all these things that are happening that are simply byproducts of people that are off balance. And that's where we can help. So that's why we're passionate about all of you going out and doing this work, having confidence. And back to the theme of the day here, Gary, with this whole trust thing, you know, trust. Trust, trust, trust. And trust will bring you peace, and it will diminish the worry, if not eradicate it, and it will bring you joy. And then you, in turn, bring that to everyone else that you encounter. So we're at the top of the hour. Can you, boy, that just screams by, doesn't it, Gary? What would you like to say just to wrap things up?
No, I just want to thank everybody for listening today and thank everybody for being part of these calls. Seems like each month on this third Tuesday of the month, we have a bigger crowd. And so tell your friends, bring other coaches, bring other people that are thinking about coaches, people that need help. If they have questions, they want our support. That's what Drayton and I are doing. We're giving back. We're helping you to help others and make a difference in the world. And we believe in our hearts, deep down in our hearts, that coaching is the tool that really makes the difference. It really can change the world and make a difference. So thanks for being on the call. Thanks for listening today.
Yeah, I'll echo that. Thank you. Thank you for being called to coaching and realizing that and embracing that. And do go there, post comments. If you want to find a fellow coach, that'd be a great place to do it. Please make some effort today, as in the next 15 minutes. I'm going to play coach for a second here. The next 15 minutes, take one actionable step toward getting yourself a coach. Reach out to somebody that you know, fellow coach. Post on the message board at the Crucible. Do one thing in the next 15 minutes to make that happen, okay? So until we get together next time, wishing you all the best. Please, all of you, say some prayers for all of us, my fellow Coloradoans here that are going through a lot of challenges with all the floods that have happened.
Amen to that.
Yeah, and just keep us, you know, everybody in your prayers. So until this time next month, everybody be well, and let us know if we can serve you in any way. Take good care.
Bye-bye, everybody.